Good morning. We'll go ahead and get started. There is coffee outside, there's some water out there, so feel free to take it. If you don't mind turning your phones mute. Know we're all busy, but maybe disturbing the other folks. We are going to be doing a Zoom conference of the event for folks. I think that Kristen said we're up to about 70 folks that registered now, many of them. Hey, at least we're at reaching folks. Thank you all for being here. I think I've met everybody, but I haven't knocked out Speight. I've asked Pat Davis to open this word of prayer. Pat is our CPEI compliance officer. We would not be where we are without folks like Pat and others that have helped us reach it. Pat?
Thank you, Dallas. I think Dallas is not taking credit for the amount of work he has done to get where we are today. So appreciate you, Dallas. So we're here to celebrate our first annual convention. We've been Trista for organizing Dallas to put us together. We all being here for those online. Well, as we come together, we thank you and we celebrate things that you've given us. Celebrate victories that we've overcome. Things that have been told us were impossible. Lord, that through your grace, and through your mercy and your strength, they're all things. Father, we just look forward to the future of other goals that you told us. As we gather this next few days, and your grace be upon us, love and fellowship with one another to share, just as you share your love and fellowship with us. Bless this time together. Guide us, give us wisdom, give us grace. And Lord, may you continue to bless CPEI as we continue to reach out to this world, share your love, share your patience, share your care and compassion for those who are in Christ's name we pray.
Couple of quick announcements. On the tables over here are some free books. Please take as many as you want. She and I are trying to clean out, get rid of a bunch of books. When I buy anymore, it's not digital. I don't need it. So please take those. I don't have to take them back home. Also, there are some brochures. Chris did an excellent job of not only helping prepare this conference, but as our marketing director has done an excellent job. And there are brochures out front. Feel free to take many as you want. Even got on there DEAC accreditation information. She also has a template for those that want to create something for your specific affiliate organization. So please give us her if you're interested in that. Just another announcement. The American Association of Christian Counselors have been supportive of us since the beginning. As a result, we go to their conferences and set up a booth. In fact, they give that to us gratis because we didn't put them other ways. We're going to lay these two items out on the table. They do a conference here in Nashville. Will be next year. It'll be in September. It'll be at the Opryland, and then the opposite year they do it in Dallas. So I invite you. There's some really great resources you may want to participate in or attend. Support the American Association. What I'd like to do this morning, basically provide an overview about CPEI, how we came about and what we stand for and what we're hoping to accomplish. Now, we have some folks in our audience here today and some that are not with us that are online. We'll be able to expound on that a little bit more so, but I want to take some time and give you a little bit of our history, if I might. Let me see. Krista, that's not working. We had all this stuff working on over. Not Krista's fault, mine.
Are you too far away?
Maybe you can just press. I. It's our vision to provide an unparalleled experience as the most trusted partner for clinical pastoral education. Now listen, there are numerous clinical pastoral training organizations out there. You hear me say nothing else this week. It may appear to bring competition. We're really not. I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go, but I believe we have a very unique product. In 2007, I think it was, Sheila and I were living in Colorado Springs, or Colorado, the Denver area. I started doing CPE for some of the clergy, primarily because I'm Southern Baptist. A lot of our ministers were part-time, and they were working at Walmart or wherever. I said, you know, if I could train our ministers in CPE, not only to give them the skills that they hopefully then could get a part-time job or something at a hospital, We had a good group going that we drive over to the west side of Colorado, if you're familiar with that, Grand Junction area. Winter came on. Well, if you know anything about Colorado, coming across 70, it becomes pretty dangerous at times. They said to me, is there any way we could do this sort of a distance education? Well, we had just started using some type of internet web browser kind of stuff in our facility. And I'll be honest with you, I was scared to death of it. So, well, you know, let's give it a try. So I sort of envisioned how could we do distance education even as far back then. Then when we began to explore our accreditation process, we ended up with the Distance Education Accrediting Commission. That seems to fit our modality as well as anything we've done. And I can tell you from experience that, at least anecdotally, I don't have any research to support this, although there has been some studies that I believe that folks tend to build a level of confidence or confidentiality with others quicker in a distance education model than face to face. So there's some real benefit to this. Our mission statement, which we worked on, tweaked, and we rewrote several times, is to provide quality, inclusive, and life-transforming clinical pastoral education. Greg is here, and I'll introduce him in a second. But Greg continues to remind me that we provide quality CPE, and I think that is such an important issue that what we do, we want it to be quality. If it's not, we'll continue to rework it until it looks better and helpful. One of the things I'll talk about this more a little bit, but inclusivity and then life transforming. I don't know about you, but CPE was probably the most life transforming experience I had apart from my salvation experience, my marriage to my wife. She's here. I need to say that. Not really. We've been married for 50-something years, so great marriage, great life. But I became a better minister, better husband, a better father. I hope your experience will be some. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. These are our core values. Pat, really responsible for having to design a lot of these and develop these for us in our process, but is integrity. I cannot stress enough the importance of integrity as a group. How we live our lives, what we do, how we react to others has implication on who we are. So I just continue to remind all of us to, to live above board, represent this organization well, respecting all of our members, our students with respect and dignity. And we truly are a theological community. When I went through CPE and I did a 2-year residency years and years ago, it was a great experience. But I remember that we focused on the clinical and we focused on the education. Somewhere the pastoral can be forgotten. So that's an important part of who we are. Service, sustainability, and transparency. One of my key values is that we need to be an environment which is honest and open. As I've said from the day one that we started CPEI, that if there's ever anything any of our members needed to know, wanted to see, it's available. And that continues to be true. Next slide, please. So how did we start? When I was getting ready to retire from the Army, from DC, where I was at the Pentagon, drove down to Virginia, met the folks at Liberty University and talked to them because I was part of that organization then. And then I went over and talked to Tim Clinton at the American Association of Christian Counselors, even though I didn't know him. Tim said, you know, this is really something that we need is CPE and pastoral care, but it just wasn't the right time for him and for me, right? 2016, I reached back out to Tim and we began to explore, and I thought, you know, we would build an organization together. But then the more I got in consultation with some of our folks like Kay and others who were initial part of our group, and looking at talking with him, we decided to form a nonprofit organization, which I think has been a benefit for all. So in 2018, can you get that highlighted shoot about 2018? Just hit on. I have it in my slides, so I'm just to tell you, I want you to see a copy of our original charter, art corporation. Here are the folks that I initially had on our corporation. We did this in December 11th, I think it was in 2018. Al Henniger, you know Al. Bill Connor, G.J. Malone, Ed Outlaw, and Kay Myers. Those were the folks that were part of our original group that we started. And then in 2019, we got our 501c3 approval. And then they backdated it for us to December of 2018. So I just wanted you to know a little bit, you know, that we continue to be hopefully a solid organization. You know, when I felt like we ought to start this organization, I believe me, I was hesitant, started retiring, and I didn't want to take it. But I said, if we're going to do that, there are three things that we are going to do. One is that we're going to ensure that people of all faiths are welcome at the table. Now, we may not always agree with everybody in their faith background, but in chaplaincy, we know we're going to meet people wherever they are, right? So I said, if you're Buddhist or you're a strong evangelical, whoever you are, if you're at our table, you're going to respect who you are. Secondly, I said, if we're going to do this, we're going to be accredited. So in 2020, we spent a year getting accredited with ISED, the International Accreditor for Education Training, to be able to provide CEUs for our folks. Now that took literally a year and a lot of work for us to get there. And then this year in July, we got our letter that says we were accredited by the Distance Education Accrediting Commission, which is part of the U.S. Department of Education, and is also recognized by CHIA, Council for Higher Education, which I think really adds a little bit more depth to our organization. And then thirdly, I said, we're going to do this. We're going to create a supervisory education program that is fair, that is time limited, but it's going to be quality. Some of you have gone through experiences as well as I have, some educational supervisory education programs, where you could spend 3, 4, 5, 6 years and still not know if you're ever going to get something. I've seen people almost have mental breakdowns. It's not fair. Those of us that have gone on that, you know, criminal degree. We know that if we do the work, at the end up, we're gonna get a PhD or whatever it may be. I want to have the same kind of opportunity in CPEI, CPE. So we built a program for 2 years. Now, sometimes it may take a little bit longer based on their schedule, but it's 2 years, and I think it's quality training that ended up helping folks. But even then, we continue to do ongoing development for our faculty. So those were 3 things important to me, and I think we're accomplishing. Next slide, please. This is our staff. Now, my picture's not up there because I'm all that important. But Greg Deloy. Greg, would you raise your hand over there? Greg is our newest staff member. He is our chief academic officer. If you haven't met him, please spend some time with him the next day or so. Greg comes from Manhattan Christian College, where he also serves in a similar role there. And he told me that day, I'm still trying to figure all this stuff out. He's getting there, but he's also a CPE. So he understands what we're about. In fact, Greg and I are leaving next Sunday to fly out to Portland, Oregon for the Distance Education Accrediting Commissions. They meet twice a year and they redesign their standards. So we're going to go out there and figure out what we need to do. We're accredited through December 27. But we have to start submitting our process in 2016 or 2026. So, I've got some work to do to get us ready for the next. Once we're reaccredited, we'll be accredited 5. But it's an ongoing process, which is bad. Elizabeth Jedzik, many of you have had contact with Elizabeth. She's not able to be here. They have 3 small children. Her husband's still in the Air Force out in Oklahoma. But if you've worked with Elizabeth, you know what quality person she is. She came to work for us. We paid her $500 a month. And she kept saying, we're gonna see this thing grow on you. I said, yes, we will. And we'll continue to increase your hours and increase your pay and stuff. And so we're also tweaking some things right now and taking her out more the administrative assistant role just to be the registrar. Barry Surratt. Barry works primarily for Jim back here, Kirkland Christian Chapel coaching organization. But Jim has been so kind to CPI. He has loaned to us Barry for these months. Ray Huff, who also worked with Jim. I cannot say enough of good things about Ray. And Ray helped us to get set up with Poppy League and so many good things. Ray felt like a few months back that God was calling him to do some other things with his time. And so Barry is stepping into that role. We're actually searching right now for a part-time director of technology, part-time bookkeeper. So I've got several good resumes, but some folks, please let us ask for their information. Kim Emmons is our part-time accountant. Again, someone that Jim hooked us up with. His wife Jenny is back here. Jenny served as bookkeeper for us as well. But because Kim has a full-time job as an accountant in the Atlanta area, I believe she asked, could we find somebody else? So she's been a real help us as well. And then what more could I say about Krista? Krista, we pay her minimal amount of money right now. We're going to hopefully change that as we go forward. But this lady works many, many more hours than we have paid for. And she is, all this is her work. So let me give her. We all know this woman. Please spend some time. She is a jewel. And her husband is here, John. Son Andreas is here. So get to know them as well. Next slide, please. When we began this process with the EAC, they said to me, they said, we're going to credit your education. They didn't say this, but I'm using these words. They didn't say, we're not really interested in your credentialing certification piece. We're not really interested in your professional development. What we are interested in is how well you do education. But that's what they credit. And so we consulted with a couple different folks and they suggested, why don't you just have set of 3 divisions? So that's what we've ended up doing. Education, which primarily Greg is responsible for now. Credentialing and certification. Why do we use credentialing? Well, we offer 2 certificates, right? Certificate in CPE, which is $1,600 with 4 courses. Supervisory education, which is $1,600 with 4 courses. So DEAC said to me, the certificate is confusing because students may think, well, I've got this certificate, therefore I'm going to be certified as a chaplain or the supervisor. So we changed it to credentialing to try to communicate a little different understanding. But over here, Beth and Brian have stepped up. Now, others have in the past, Clint and others have stepped up as credentialing, but Beth and Brian have stepped up to help us right now to really solidify the credentialing process. So if you're in the process, you have any questions about the credentialing where you are or where some of your students are, please talk to them. I think, Beth, will you be here tomorrow? Okay. So please talk to them if there's some questions, but I know that they've been working hard, so I appreciate them. And then professional development. Parthenia Cesar Atina is in charge of that. She is developing cadres. You came out of organizations like CPSB and chapters. Cadres is essentially going to be the same kind of structure with a little different tweak. We believe, should I say, I believe that you get credentialed, certified with us. You're credentialed and certified for life. We don't really do that every day. But there are certain requirements that we have. Continued education, you live in morally and all this kind of stuff. So we want those professional development cadres to be ongoing education, support with one another and things. So actually, it's going to be a session on that. I think Tina's going to talk more about that. Kay over here is our vice chair for Black. She has agreed to work with us getting recertified, reaccredited with the ISET organization, the International Credit for Continuing Education Training. And she also sort of falls under that because we do have the opportunity for folks to be able to give CEUs for some training organization that you may hold in your community, your affiliate. If you have questions about how to do that, please contact Kay. And then one of my dreams is that we will be able to offer some professional development courses later on down for folks that want to have professional development. So that's sort of what my goal is. And then I'm going to talk about these, but we basically, we've done some restructuring the last few years. Some of you are probably saying, yeah, Dallas, I'm tired of it. But it's just been necessary because one of the things that I learned about growing an organization is you have to be willing to change. And so we now have 2 governing bodies, the Executive Council and the CPEI Board of Directors. Next slide, please. Here's our board of directors over everything but the 3 divisions. So if you'll notice all the way to my far right, we have the education division. And under that, you see folks like the registrar, Ted Taylor. Where's Ted? He's over here. Ted is our ethics chair. So he's there to provide consultation support as needed. Right now, we don't have a finance chair. Jim has been in that role, but he had stepped back because of things in his own organization growing. So we'll be filling that chair hopefully soon. Structural designers and course developers. Of course, Krista's there to help us support. Librarian, volunteer librarian, Emily Hall is one of our training supervisor educators. Of course, Barry. I'll talk about our affiliate organizations in a second, then our faculty, and then compliance. And you'll notice a dotted line, not very visible, but it's over here to ISET, which began towards what Kay does. I've already mentioned these folks, but the credentialing vision and then the professional development. And then up at the top, you can see an executive council and advisory council. So let me talk about that. What we basically tried to do is restructure the board of directors to be stakeholders outside of CPEI. Why is that important? Sometimes you can do so much navel gazing internally that you don't see things, and you don't have the forthright insight to do things different. And so we restructured it. Dorothea James is one of our chaplains. She has been a dual chair for us. She's going to be online this one also. John Reed is a retired Army chaplain that I work with. John served as our vice chair, but also head of our personnel committee. On the personnel committee, also Ted, who's our ethics chair, and then Mary Todd, who you see up here on the screen. Mary is a retired educator, vice president, academic dean at a college. She's the CEO of the Honor Society by CPEI. She has just been a jewel. Thank you for Pat Davis recommending her. Lee Colvin actually lives in Marcusburg, which is just south of Nashville. He's a certified financial planner with Edward Jones. Michelle Baird is a compliance officer. She also holds a doctorate in Master of Business, not Master, but a business administration. And she works with Baptist Healthcare. She said to me one day, well, why don't you offer CPE Baptist Healthcare? And I said, well, they offer it, but it's a different organization that offers it there. She's been just a jewel. And then Scott Norton, who another one that Pat knew, he's also retired, but an educator. And you can see some of his qualifications there. And then we also put on the board of directors previous chair for the board, and that was Al Hennigan. He served as a local consultant. And then myself and Greg are the folks that are internal. So as you can see, part of our philosophy was to try to get input from folks outside. And I can tell you right now that I told Pat earlier that Mary Todd has just been a jewel on our personnel committee because she served in that role as a nonprofit. And some of my roles that I've been in, I haven't had to do a lot of that specific work. So having people with that kind of insight, and as we go forward and want to replace these folks, then we're going to reach out to you and say, you have recommendations. Get somebody that you think is helping us to reach our future. Next, please. Here's the executive council. The executive council basically meets ongoing to help me and help the organization. Starting the first of the year, we'll start meeting monthly with them and our staff so we can sort of have consistency. So we got away from that in the last few months, partly because we've just been busy with our accreditation process. And I'll be honest with you, I needed a little break. My brain was just on the fried, all the work that we were doing. But our director of technology, our director of marketing, we do not have a chief financial officer at this time, or financial chair, but we're going to fill that hopefully. Our ethics chair, compliance officer, Pat and Kay, credentialing chair, professional development, and chief academic officer. So they sort of handle the day-by-day business, and if there are issues that we need to address immediately, they're the ones that I go to. Now, if there are any questions about any of these, please feel free to stop me, okay? Because if you wait till the end, you'll probably forget it. So if you have any questions, please stop me. The other group that we have to have is an advisory committee. It's one of the requirements of DEAC. So I asked somebody who already accredited DEAC. I said, what in the world's an advisory? They gave me some insight. Basically, it's folks who are in the profession that's outside of CPEI who can meet with us once a year and say, these are the needs of our population. So you can see sort of their responsibilities there. Dr. Kelly Barnett, Kelly and I served together in the military. He's also a American Associated Marriage and Family Therapist supervisor. He's a really bright individual. Dr. Jim Brownings, many of you know Jim. He's our Air Force chaplain, but he heads the Marshall Chaplaincy Center. I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
What type of institutions they are rated officer, which is diversity inclusion?
Right.
Have you seen it?
No, we haven't. And it's just because we've been focused on everything. We're.
I said that because it would be very first goal that faith.
Yes, yeah. And that'd be something that we'll have to look at. Because we do want to be inclusive. And I asked, I gave Elizabeth an assignment last night. She had time to get it to me. So I wanted you to see, currently we had students from, of course, large breadth of the evangelical background. Catholics, Jewish, Buddhists, anybody else?
Interesting.
Think of. We've had students internationally. Right now, Clint is training 3 folks in Indonesia at a hospital there to become supervisors. My goal is for us to have indigenous CPEI centers or affiliate organization. And for those folks to train their own. He's training 3 folks there. My son Scott, he's trained folks in the UK and is actually training, I think, 2 or 3 folks right now, with supervisors there. One of the challenges is, when you start working internationally, is the difference in the dollar. So those folks will be able to work within that environment because there's some real challenges that they have to work with us. Major General retired Bob Dees. He runs the National Center for Healthy Chaplains. And Bob said to me one day, he said, the only chaplains that he does hire chaplains, the only chaplains I will hire those with CPP training. We have a good relationship with Bob. Ron Frazier is the director for global truckers and corporate chaplaincy. Heidi Kugler, and I believe she'll be online today. Heidi is the director for federal prison chaplaincy in DC, and she has been just a real jewel to work with. And then Becky Moberg. Becky works at the hospital. Clarence works. She's I don't know if she's a VP, but she's on up in there, and she's RN, just really bright, very helpful. These folks we meet with annually give us insight about what needs are. Next slide, please. Here are our accreditations, and I'm sorry, some that may bleed over up there, but you can see, of course, we already talked about DAC, but we have to be approved annually in Florida, and we're approved as a religious organization. Florida. I submitted our request the other day to them to be approved in January, sent it back to me, and he said, you got to wait till November. Because last year we got behind April. So in January, they'll reapprove us. Coldness, we're a part of the Coldness organization. Some of you may not be familiar with them, but they're an organization you can see here that works with people of all faiths in chaplaincy, pastoral care, research, especially settings. And then I already spoken about ISET. Next, please. Let me talk just a little bit about our structure and our operational model. I started called business model, but it's really not business model, but where is he at? Factory. Pretty clear this one got an MBA, so I might start pulling on his brain a little bit, dogs. When we do the sound business practice, we're working with this. I think what I cannot thank the 2 people up here now. Jim and his wife are helping us to really get things cleared up because that's not my expertise. I just thank so much for them for their insight. But many of you know that what happens oftentimes in cognate group, pastoral care cognate group, you have a group and then you have these training centers out there, and the training centers have to go through their own self-study and have a site visit. Expensive process. When I was talking to DEAC, they said, listen, Dallas, we're going to accredit CPEI. We're not accrediting these other organizations. Now, if you want to go that way, if you want us to come to Baton Rouge Medical Center and accredit them, then they're going to have to go to a site visit. So, well, we don't want that. So we are the accredited center, and Chris Philbrick, who is just a godsend. For those that know Chris, Chris was not a chaplain. Chris and I worked together on a project at the Pentagon for a year or so, and I asked him about 4 years ago if he would help me. He didn't know. When he said yes, it was going to be like a 3-year commitment. But his son actually designed this for us, and we're in the middle of this wheel. And then the affiliates are here. So affiliates organizations, who else got affiliate organizations here? All right. And then our students. None of us can operate without the other. The affiliates need CPI, CPI needs affiliates, we all need students. So that's how we operate. But what happens is that affiliate organizations that want to associate with us, we have an application. They complete that application, we review it. You know, there's some legal documents and things they have to submit. And once approved, they become an affiliate organization. They get put on our website. There are specific applications, CP applications for CPE and supervisory education that are linked to their own website. And so we have this memorandum that has to be signed just once, unless there's some changes in it. And then the fee for that is $750 per year, regardless of the size of the organization, which just makes it simple. Now, recently, and this is going to happen, there are going to be rumors about CPEI. There are going to be criticism of CPEI. You can just imagine it's going to happen. So I had somebody the other day sent to me, and I appreciate them reaching out and says, well, I understand that CPI does not support residential programs. So I don't know where you heard that from. That's not true. Dallas back here, I think where Clarence is, University of Kansas Medical Center, they have residential programs, so they get the Medicare pass-through dollars. So please, if you hear rumors like that, I don't know where they get started, but please come to me or come to somebody in our organization so we can clarify that, because it is possible. I think you're applying for it right now, aren't you? I bet. Yeah, Washington Regional Medical Center, Arkansas. And it just makes it possible for you to have students in a residence. Next slide, please. Okay, I can't really show it because of some problems this morning just with technology, but we do have our strategic plan for 5 years, 2025 to 2030. And these areas have already there. I was going to show you the example of that, but administration, which primarily covers myself and Greg to some extent, admissions, academics, which is primarily Greg's area, finances, faculty and staff, technology, marketing, and compliance issues. So all of those are part of our 5-year plan. You're more than welcome to get a copy of it at any time. If you don't know where we can put it on the website, then it will be visible. That may be something that Crystal can figure out for us. We also, since 2020, now remember we got approved in December of 2018. So in 2020, we started, well, even though we actually went to an accountant in 2019, but in 2020 and 2021, we have a comparative report. In other words, our CPA, which is Jim Lee, Certified Accountant, Lakeland, Florida. He basically did a comparative report, looked at all of our reports. We've done that for last year. We've done it for 22, 23, and then we'll be doing that soon for 23, 24. Also, DEAC now has passed a new standard, starting probably in 25. I'm assuming that every organization, whether they're non-degree or degree, are going to have to do an audit as well. That'll cost us about $7,000 or $8,000. But listen, I'm willing to pay for that, not personally. I'll take up some offerings here, okay? But I want us to be transparent and accountable. And those reports right now that I'm talking about are available to anybody who wants to see them, all right? Third thing here, I've already spoken to this, but the affiliate organizations pay CPEI $750. Right now, our tuition per student is $1,274. My wife asked me the other day, she said, how'd you come up with that? I figured, well, blame me for that, Jim. We'll change that in the future.
Thank you. Just $1.
Just $1. I don't know how to say that. We got there. But we'll change that in the future. But essentially, what happens for the most part, most affiliates, they're billed, students, they have to apply through us. Their supervisor educator, the affiliate gets the application, they review it, they approve the student, then they send an acceptance or decline notice to Elizabeth. Elizabeth then, once they are approved, one way or the other, they get a letter automated, and if they're approved, then she will send out an enrollment form. There's an extensive enrollment form that they're required to sign, an acceptance letter. And I'll be glad to show you the enrollment form sometime. It is very extensive because, again, the EAC wants to ensure that folks know what they're getting. And I think that is so important. Everything we've got related to tuition, what kind of technology they need, what are the refund policies, and all those kind of things. The other thing is CPI retains $175 of that $1,274 per student. So why do we do that? Simply to have operating expenses. And even then, sometimes, we need to reevaluate that in the future so we can become, we're solvable right now, but we want to stay that way as we go in the future. Next slide, please. Here's some other our expenses or our revenue, shall I say. Students pay an application fee and then annual renewal fees for credentialing. I have applied to the veterans about veterans using their GI benefits, Jeremy, so that hopefully will be approved. Probably should have a site visit from them probably late October, 1st of November. They said to me, if there's nothing that you didn't submit to us, then we'll come do a site visit. So we're welcome to come to our office in Orange Park, Florida. But I said, there's nothing there but the chair and the desk. You're welcome to come. We have everything online, so they may still come. But y'all be in prayer for that, because that would really benefit those individuals out there that have earned that benefit, be able to have it paid for their seat. The last thing here is we are currently approved in 47 states. There are a few territories too, but why 47? Why not 4? Well, there's a couple reasons for that. One is some of those states we do not currently have students. We get students, and then we'll pursue the affiliation. The other thing is some of these states are so expensive that right now it's just not viable for us to be. For example, one state, I won't mention which one it is, I can't remember exactly, but you have to pay $5,000 a year just to be approved, allow their students to be in our CPE program. And I don't know, but I just felt like that was not an expense that we need to incur right now. So that's why we're in 47 states, which basically means in those 47 states, we can train students in those states without any problems. Next slide, please. This, I know you cannot see that, but what I wanted to do here was basically show you that we are working on 2025 budget. And again, I cannot thank Jim enough for helping us to set this up, but what we had to do, and I had to rethink some things, that when we think about students, we cannot think in terms of student numbers. We have to think of enrollments. Right? So you might have the same student who enrolls 4 times in a year in the 12-week course. We offer 12-week, 16-week courses, right? So a student could actually enroll in 4 courses in the 12-week courses a year. So last year we had right at five, I know this is a rounded off number, right at 570 enrollments. I projected for us to have 700 enrollments for 2025. That means that we need to grow affiliates. We need to grow supervisor educators. We need to enroll new folks in our program just to be able to meet some of these budget requirements here. Because we are going to be taking on a couple of different staff. I did not receive any pay from CPEI until this year. And I think if I'm correct, Jim, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think they pay me $1,200 a month. That's what I heard. I heard today. Today? Well, we're going to have to talk, brother. Why? Because I'm committed to CPEI. Now, I asked them to start paying me something, not because I think I'm worth it, but because one day I'm going to step aside. We have a succession plan in our policy, all right? And when I step aside, I want us to be able to hire somebody to step in my role and we'll be able to compensate them adequately. That's what I'm trying to do, build our compensation. Next slide, please. Greg and I sat down last night and Greg said, I'm not all that good in Excel. And I said, well, I'm fairly good, but we're going to work this out together. Because I wanted you to see some of the stats where we are. I started putting up 2023 and I said, I'd rather you see where we are for this year. So the total number of students that I was able to pull for January through August was 166 students. These are our primary learning outcomes. Now, under each one of these, there's 3 or 4 outcomes, all right? So they fit up underneath that. But the students will be able to demonstrate the ability to use self as the primary resource in pastoral care. Our benchmark is at least 80%. From the results of the end of the core self surveys, our students said 89%. So that means we still got work to do, but that means we're at least above our benchmark. Our second PLO, students will be able to construct a theology of pastoral care that embraces the ability to provide pastoral care to individuals from a broad range of theological, cultural, and ethnic backgrounds. 87%, again, above our goal. Third PLO, students will be able to demonstrate personal and professional skills and ethical, interdisciplinary, and consultative relationships. 83%. PLO 4, students will integrate current relevant insights in the field of behavioral science into one's practice, 84%. So you can see we're above our benchmark, but we still have room to go. And then there are 3 areas that DEAC says we must report consistently annually. Did you achieve, and this is what's asked of students, did you achieve or will you achieve on completing CP course the goal you had when you started CPE? 97% said yes. Not bad, right? Would you recommend CPE to your friend? 97%. All things considered, were you satisfied with your CP experience with CPEI? 97%. So I think we're doing some good things. I applaud you that are out there on the front lines doing this work. Next slide. This shows a little bit of our diversity and racial cultural lives that you talked about. This is 2023. I don't have the update, but you can see a little bit of our diversity numbers and stuff. Next slide, please. So can I have the lights on back here? I'm not coming to preach to you, but we are theological, right? And I happen to be Christian, and so that's the vantage points that I'm considering. But what I wanted to do is I want to frame a few things with you from the book of Nehemiah. If you're familiar with the book of Nehemiah, city of Judah, Jerusalem, and all that have been pushed up. Yes. Nehemiah heard word about it, and he felt the burden to go back there and to restructure it. He went to his king and he begged, prayed and got permission to go back. Here's what we read. So I came to Jerusalem, and there were 3 days. I was there for 3 days. Then I rose in the night, and I had a few men with me. I told no one what God had put in my heart to do in Jerusalem, nor was there any animal with me except the one on which I rode. And I went by night through the valley gate to the serpent well and the refuge gate, viewed the walls of Jerusalem which were broken down, and its gates which were burned with fire. Then I went up to the fountain gate to the king's pool, but there was no room for an animal under the pass. So I went up in the night by the valley, viewed the build the wall. Then I turned back and into the valley gate, and so returned. And the officials did not know where I had gone, what I had done. I had not told the Jews, priests, the nobles, the officials, or others who did the work. Then I said to them, you see the distress that we are under, how Jerusalem lies in waste and its gates are burned with fire. Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem. And they said, let us rise up and build. Then chapter 3 has a whole list of those who joined together to make that happen. But unfortunately, in chapter 4, and so it happened when Sanballat heard that we were rebuilding the wall, that he was furious, indignant, and mocked the Jews. And he spoke before his brethren and the army of Samaria and says, what are these feeble Jews doing? Will they fortify themselves? Will they offer sacrifices? Will they complete it in a day? Will they revive the stones and the heaps of rubbish, stones that are burned? Whatever they build, if a fox goes upon it, it will break down the stone wall. Listen, if we do nothing else, folks, we have to remain focused on our theological heritage and our foundation. Whatever yours is, may not be mine, but we have that essential to what we're doing. Clinical pastoral education. Second, we have, as leaders, to be faithful in our integrity. We have to live above reproach. Not only do we have CPEI professional ethics, but so does the EAC. In fact, the supervisor educators, as well as myself and others, have to review, sign an ethics statement annually that we will abide by certain rules regarding recruitment of students. How we treat students. We don't want to deceive them. Avoid getting sidetracked. One of the things that, and I want to give Beth credit for this, but one of the things that we decided early on, trying to figure out, Beth, where we put it in some of our stuff. We have this statement that I know it's in some of the material. The CPEI will remain neutral regarding political and social views. Members of CPI will not use CPI as a platform for any political views and writing on social media, online forums, and any other forms of communication. Different opinions are acceptable, but not to the point that they seek to create division. Listen, we are a theological education program. You may have your political views, your social views, whatever, that's fine. But this is not the organization to espouse. And again, I want to give this lady over here credit because she helped to create those ideas for us back several years ago. Does anybody have any thoughts about that? You agree with that? Jim?
Quick question. You get a copy of that. We ordained as sort of chaplain. We have one chaplain. And the chaplain. Part of his reason why. don't have any words like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't want to sound harsh, but I just don't want us to get sidetracked and focus on things that are not important. Thirdly, practice self-care regularly. You and I, and particularly those out on the front line, do this work day in and day out. And you can give yourself and give out. And if you don't practice self-care, you're not going to be of value to anyone. Listen, my wife and I did retreats for a number of years here in Nashville. We lived here in Nashville. And one of the first things we saw from the ministers that we saw that got into trouble morally, spiritually, emotionally, was they ceased having personal devotion because they weren't practicing good self-care. Thirdly, as Nehemiah says, let's remain focused on the mission. We have to expand our education program. Greg is going to talk about that. I'm not going to get into his, but as I said, we're going to do some additional things with DEAC. We're going to do some additional things with professional development. We have to manage and expand our financial resources responsibly. We have to expand our number of affiliates. But we're not just going to, gravitate to anybody who wants to do that. We're going to make sure that they are going to represent who we are and follow our guidelines. I've already talked about this, but we're expanding our international presence, and I think we want to do that even more. So train those folks in those indigenous communities, train our leaders there, and then also expand our resources and benefits to CPEI members. Chris is working on a project right now for us. I said, Krista, you've given so much of your time and your energy. Don't even worry about that to the first of the year. But we're going to come up with a separate software program that'll help to facilitate the credentialed members. And we want to have other folks that don't necessarily want to become credentialed with us, but want to be a part of CPEI. We want them to become a member, and we want to have some benefits. So she's working on that with us as well. All right, I want you to take a piece of paper. If you need some, and somebody can share, just a small piece of paper. Need a paper and a pen or pencil. My wife can get you a pen if you don't have one, all right? And by the way, while you're doing that, we have some of the CPI brochures out there. So please take those with you as well.
We have plenty of those. Got to.
Everybody have something to write on? Christian, would you flip through the slide? I think probably the last one. Keep going. It's the very last slide. All right, there you go. Right there. All right, I want you to draw 9 dots on your paper, just like you see it there. You got those 9 dots drawn. I want you to connect all dots with one single line, but you can't go back now over line. You may have to cross over line, but you can't go back. Do not retrace your path. So connect all 9 dots without retracing your path. Give a few minutes to do that.
Outside the box.
So clever.
You cannot do it if you stay within the 9 dots. It's impossible. The only way you connect all these 9 dots is to go outside. If we are going to be successful as an organization, it is not going to be dependent upon Dallas Speight, all right? For Krista, Beth, it's going to be dependent on all of us. This is your organization, And we have to think outside the box. What can we do that is of quality, inclusiveness, life transforming to reach people and train them in the path of here in the council? Dallas is going to share some things. I asked him to share some things more today. I'll remember some point in the panel. And others to share, what are you doing creatively? What can we do to expand? Jim is doing some great things. He just shared with me that one of their chaplains just got appointed to the Navy chaplaincy. So think what, and when you have good ideas, listen, it's your organization. Share it. When you have questions, ask. All right. Greg, would you come and say a few words and then we'll take a break?
I had a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so my question was about how does it work if we need to open a lead site outside the country? Has that ever happened? What would that look like? I know we can train people while here outside the country.
Right.
I'm just curious about having a site.
So let's you and I talk about this offline because one of the things we're doing right now with the folks that plans training in Indonesia, we have to get a certificate of residency for them to be able to build students in the U.S. and stuff. And so I've been working with the IRS to get that, but that may have some implications there. Yeah, I just think it's important here to be able to have programs out there that we train for. So please get with me. Okay.
Okay.
Great.
I'm Greg Delort and Chief Ed Officer here. And I don't want to take a lot of time, a little bit over. So just basically what we're looking at, and I want to preface my comments with this. I'm not bringing things to CPEI that you guys all already watched. So just maybe a different perspective. But one of the things we're trying to do educationally or academically is move into a bit more of a higher education model in some ways. That's not going to change the way train or workers there or supervisors might be, but we're looking at some other things, possibilities like a doctorate degree and those kinds of things, and that will bring some additional market students who have that sort of interest. It will also bring us more responsibilities. Higher education landscape, formal landscape in the United States, it's technology, processes, expectations, thresholds, and markers, and some of that. Like Dallas was saying, we have 47 states who are approved, and it's been Dallas, right, that's gone through every state writing all those. That's a chore. And if we start moving into higher education a little bit more directly, there's an organization who does all that for us. It'll cost less probably for our organization comparable amount that you said the state that we'd have to pay this one state $5,000. NC Sarah handles all that. And once we're in with them, I've done that with my institution that I'm at full time. Once we do that, the application process is pretty seamless. And then renewal every year is easy. And once we do that, they do all that. So all states, for example. So we're looking at things like that. DMN, one of the things I'm wanting to do is also look into opportunities to sort of subcategories, like hospice or those sorts of things that have a lot more laying out in the field, palliative care, things like that we can spend more time on We'd also, one of the things I'm also looking at, maybe working with, is broadening what sorts of contexts in which chaplains work. So, for example, a couple weeks ago, I was asked to speak in the chaplain to a Big 12 football team. And they don't have a chaplain that travels with them, but they have a chaplain back at their campus for the football team. And one of my friends is chaplain for a football team, and he travels with the team. Well, when I ask my students this all the time, when you think of chaplain, what are some of the things you think about? Well, it's always one of the first answers is, they're going to tell me my mom's dead or dying or something like that, or they're going to tell me this or that. And like the reputation around with people outside of the field it's pretty limited. It's almost always in the healthcare because they don't reference healthcare at all. So there are more things we can do with that, and I'd like to be a little more inclusive of that. Give some opportunities for some of those ways to function as a chaplain. I work with the community nearby where I live, and developing community chaplaincy, and so they just work with community organizations for social purposes, provide chaplain pastoral care to the community in all sorts of ways. So, when Dallas is saying think outside the box, that's kind of where I am. I think there are a lot of things we can do. I don't think these are brand new ideas by any stretch, but I think there are some ways that we can broaden our reach. International, like Dallas said too, we want to broaden that. There are all kinds of things we can do. It's just it'll be a step-by-step process. I want to say this too. It's one of the reasons I was interested in this particular organization, in which to kind of manifest what I believe is important to pastoral care is that guys stuff about in terms of how standardized are. I'm in 3 different organizations. I was a big involved visionary founding member. And you might have the same experience when you go through a CPEI. In a lot of these places, the whole education you receive is like 100% dependent on the supervisor. Does that resonate with anyone? So you can go to, you have this incredible supervisor who's fully invested in you, fully invested in the process, and fully invested in the group, and that's just great. And then you can have a supervisor who just doesn't care much, just going through the motions. And CPEI just kind of, there's that creativity to allow, but there's also a structure, so it's not so widely varied. And CPEI is about excellence. We talk about quality, but we're about excellence. We're an organization integrity, like I think we are. We're going to increase our excellence so that the 80% threshold that we shown up here, we achieve 87, whatever it might be. We're going to keep bumping that up. We're going to look at other SLOs, moving it up, and not be satisfied with just making sure we're above the line. We want to be the best. I want to be the best. I don't want to be in competition, like Dallas has said, but I want to be able to present us, and I think we already can do that as maybe the best choice for training. And that's where, like I said, it's not bringing that. You guys are. And I'm happy to talk with anybody about it. If you have anything to go on here, and but
The other thing.
all right, we're working with Jeanette on piloting a Spanish program, Spanish CPT, and we're just we're doing pilots so that we can kind of work out the kinks, because there are going to be some things, some bumps that we just don't anticipate. But we've got 3 or 4 different people who are interested in providing that.